I've spent my whole life just trying to feel okay. These past 5 days I've spent a lot more time in silence and just less stimulation because, as I said in my video on work a couple weeks back, I wanted to do all these things because work had become so draining, and I'd be spending so much time doing it that I had lost sense of who I was and what I wanted to be, what I wanted to do. And then I was like, oh, I just got to stop work, and then the time that I was investing in work, I'm just going to invest it in this instead. But that was not how it would happen, because I hadn't developed this sense of internal motivation and internal drive to do the things regardless of how I felt. And that's not to say to numb it out and just, I'm just going to be this cold robot that does the action. It's kind of the opposite. It's being more in tune with yourself. Because when you have external factors playing on you, then you're always working for them. You're always having that kind of pressure to kind of keep you in line. And it's distracting you from yourself. And, in my spare time, I would have periods of time where I would be productive, and I was doing the things that I wanted to do. I was working out, I was working on soccer, I was working on music, I was painting, or I was working on YouTube or something like that. And I'd never be able to sustain it for some reason. And that really frustrated me. Like, why was I not consistent? And a lot of the goals that I had set, a lot of the things that I felt like I had to achieve were these big kind of things. Like, I had to overcome so much because I felt so bad in who I was. Because, to be honest, deep down, I felt like I was a loser, and I just wanted to kick that loser to the side. I wanted to say, no, I'm not this weak person. I'm not a loser. I'm not this kind of frail person. A man has to be strong. I have to do these things. I've got obligations. And so I would try and kick that aside and just kind of force myself to kind of do these things, because I felt, the actions that you do determine what life you're going to have, and your habits make such an impact on your day-to-day living. And I would realize that I would feel better when I do these things. But then also in these times of silence and of boredom, this intense pain would just kind of come up and arise in me. And I don't know how to describe it apart from quite excruciating. Like, it takes my whole effort. It takes 100% of my effort to be able to get through it. More than I've ever pushed myself in running, and probably more than I've pushed myself in soccer or in anything else. Like, it's like this emotional just pain, of straining against a weight, but it feels like that throughout the whole body, in the emotional kind of state, not in the body, which is really weird, and it feels really stupid. Like, I should just have control of my emotions. Like, why is this happening? Why do I have this intense pain kind of come up? And I realized that I created this habit of just numbing it down, because when I was little, I was the eldest, and so I had to be the bigger man. I had to do the right thing because I was eldest. I should know better. And I also had to grow up a bit quicker because I was kind of the third parent for my 3 siblings, and I had to help out and look after them a lot, which was so stressful and draining for me, because as a kid, you're just like, oh, this is just how life is, And I didn't have the best upbringing. Like, my parents had a lot of troubles and they ended up separating. And I feel like a lot of that kind of got put on me, being the eldest. And, all of this kind of things I just kind of pushed down because I had to put on a front. I had to be okay. I had to do these things. I have to work now. I have to be okay in front of these people. I have to take care of them. It doesn't matter what I want. And it just, even though I had a keen sense of myself, there was still this kind of loneliness inside. There was still this kind of sadness that I felt, and this separation from people. I always felt very different. I always felt very isolated and alone. And even though I would have moments of being able to connect to some people very briefly, as I said, they'd be brief. And, you know, even looking back on my life, there's not very many periods of me being truly happy when I think about it. Like maybe a few periods when I was really younger, but they're very few and far between in my adolescence and adult years. Like my life has just felt like it's been a whole lot of suffering, a whole lot of kind of hurt and pain and just making stupid mistakes and hitting my head against a wall again and again. As I said, having these periods of being consistent, but then falling off and then, you know, binging an anime or binging a TV show and binge eating this kind of stuff and just eating to kind of get that feeling away to make myself just feel okay. Because I felt so shitty, so lonely, so hurt. And I'd realized like, oh, like I'm distracting myself with all these external things. I need to become more internal and I need to spend more time with myself. And these were these kind of topics that I had read about, and I'd kind of get motivated to do them, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do it. And so I would do it for a while. I would just, every spare time I would have, I would just sit down in silence and I would like stare at a wall, or I'd just lay down and just stare at the ceiling, and I'd go on walks and that kind of thing. But I could never sustain it for 2 or 3 days. It always became too painful that I had to revert back to how I was living. And that was because I've never trained myself to sit with those feelings and act despite them. And that was the root cause of me being inconsistent. It wasn't that I didn't want these things. It wasn't that I was, you know, it was actually reinforcing that I was a loser and I was trying to get away from that, run away from that. And the more I tried to run away from that, the bigger that it got, the more that I kind of fed it and the more it kind of followed me. It's like the more you try to get rid of your fears, the more fearful you kind of become. The harder you try to sleep, the harder it is to sleep. So I've been spending these past 5 days in more silence, low stimulation. I've been reading a bit, I've been journaling, I've been going on long walks, and I've been eating very plain food, the same thing every day. And I have more moments of peace, I have a lot more creativity spark up and come inside me, but there's been a lot of that difficulty and that tension rise. But this time around I've been using ChatGPT to kind of help guide me. Whenever I feel like I'm going off rails or whatever, I kind of write out my thoughts and send it to ChatGPT, and then it kind of says, this is normal for what you're feeling around this kind of day when you're trying to do lower stimulation and kind of retrain your nervous system to be able to act in these kind of things. Because before you were sustaining yourself with all these pleasurable kind of things, you know, with these dopaminergic activities. And, you know, I was just choosing comfort and ease over the things that I wanted to do, which were hard and difficult. And I was acting based on motivation. You know, whenever I felt motivated, I would act. And the real way you've got to act, the real way consistency and discipline works is acting without motivation. It's doing the thing day after day after day after day. It's not doing it for long hours. It's not doing these big, beautiful kind of plans that I would love to draw up and that I would create like several times a month. I would create this new kind of workout plan or this new kind of plan for my life about how it was going to be, how it was going to turn out, how I was going to like learn physics and learn drawings and that could be more like Da Vinci, or how I was going to fully commit to soccer and like do, you know, Kobe Bryant sessions, do like 8 hours a day and try and become a pro soccer player or whatever. And sure, that's where your discipline can get you, and sure, that's where a work ethic can get you. But if you're acting on motivation and all these kind of big plans, then you're just refeeding the kind of pleasure dopamine kind of situation, you know. It's just like kind of watching this anime that gets you like all kind of fired up or whatever, and it makes you feel good, but it doesn't actually give you any results. It doesn't actually help you act in real life, because real life is pretty boring. It's pretty boring to be present, and it's pretty boring to, do workouts long enough to see results. It's pretty boring to play guitar long enough to see yourself get better. It's pretty boring to learn all the fundamentals for drawing and just do 20 minutes of it every day, which I've been doing for the past almost month now. And I realized I was filling all my time with doing these things, and that, I needed a break. And so that's what I've been doing this. And that's what came to make me think of this realization that I've just been spending my whole life just trying to feel okay, just trying to kind of get by in life. And the more I kind of chase these pleasure kind of things, the more I kind of chase these ideas that I thought would be great, the worse I kind of felt, and the more frustrated with myself I was getting, because I wasn't seeing results in them. And that's why I created this video, because I feel like it was something that I needed at a certain time. And I would strongly recommend that if you're having trouble with consistency, if you don't feel like your life is quite right, that you definitely try spending more time with yourself, even if that's just going on a walk every day, or, just sitting in silence, or journaling if you've never done that before. Because these things make such a drastic difference, and you have to live with yourself. You have to live in your body, and if you're not able to deal with all the things that are inside of you, if you're not able to learn to control that and not always act on your impulses, then you're going to have a lot of trouble in life, and it's going to be a lot harder than it needs to be, or that it could be. And it's taken everything for me just to get to day 5 of doing this, which is the longest I've ever done of low stimulation. No YouTube, no anime or whatever, no TV shows, no processed foods, no video games, nothing. And it sucks, but it's also kind of had a few benefits, but I haven't been doing it long enough to see a return on that, and for my body to kind of adjust and recalibrate to this new way of being, of this new instructions. And just as a last note, I want to go on another tangent about something else. For a while I've been frustrated about money and about career and about the way society kind of works. And I've just kind of wanted to be, the more time I spend with myself, the more I want to be alone and be in peace and just be away from everything, because I'm like, I have these great moments of peace when I'm by myself, so why don't I just stay by myself and live in a cabin in the woods or whatever. But that's not really an answer, because we have to deal with society, we have to deal with the ways, there's certain ways that life works, and we have to kind of deal with that. Those are realities. Like, you have to have money to be able to buy things, so you have to work for that. You have to provide money, so then you have to provide value, so then people will give you money for that value. So then you have more resources to do the things that you want to do. And that really frustrated me for a while, because I just wanted to, as I said, to do the things I wanted to do. I just wanted to be alone and just have time to do the things that I wanted to do. And that's not reality. Reality is kind of tough, and it kind of sucks at times, but we have to be able to deal with these things, because, as I said, it's how the world kind of works. And for me, that's kind of sucked, but I think that's a part of growing up and being an adult. And that doesn't mean that things can't change and that we can't try and make things better. But, you've got to work with what you've got and start with where you're at, rather than thinking of these ideals, these fantasies that I often get caught up in, rather than being grounded here on the earth. I think I've spoken for quite long enough, so thank you for watching if you did. My name is Malin. And wash your dishes. Wash your dishes, man. Peace out.